The Blue Jewel.
Chapter 11. Part 1. I can say without fear of being wrong that the legends about the damned are based on a series of lies spread by the magicians who they originated the Order of the White Tunics. De Naturalis Volume 23, Kushasmara. Two mags moved the body of the Denka to the dungeon where the mercenaries were locked, but they passed by. The Well of Abominations was a place where mags got rid of those experiments that did not come out as expected. A magical barrier prevented anything from leaving the pit. Carrying out the orders of their superior, they threw the body of the Denka into this bottomless chasm. At the same time other magicians took the young woman to begin the preparations for the ritual. There was no time to lose. At dawn they had to begin. While the mercenaries were totally demoralized, they had seen the Denka's corpse and how they were taking Aryan away. Fedorus would get away with it, and they would surely be raw material for his dark experiments. Gosburg regained consciousness as he fell into the pit of abominations and found himself on the ground. A softer impact than expected given the altitude. The Denka sat up and wiped his suit with a distracted air. Everything had gone according to plan. Well, not so much. Fedorus must have suspected something about him. That wine had 6 different kinds of poisons. I had knocked him unconscious, probably because of the last glass, but the truth is that although poisoned, that wine was quite good. Fedorus's cellar must be an interesting place to visit. Now he was in a mess, locked inside a pit built from a black magic curse. He examined the place, as he now had nothing to hide, and his eyes began to glow a deep blue that illuminated the bottom of the well somewhat. It was an ancient place, very old. It had been there since before the white robes occupied the tower. This was where the great necromancer Carlomius hid all her corpses and the remains of her necromancy rituals. Surely here were a few apprentices. That when it happened in the first era? No, it was him in the second. No, Ileana became a necromancer at the beginning of the third era. It was when Aldomir had to escape. So much time had passed since all those events. The question was how to get out of the pit to rescue all the mercenaries, then look for the weapons and free Aryan while finishing off Fedorus before the wizard did the ritual. A ritual that, by the way, Gosburg himself had created when he was a Laban. It was one of the reasons why duels were created to end demonic wars. The poison had diminished his powers significantly. Gosburg had risked too much, but he must know the degree of involvement of the mags of Tripulia in this conspiracy, their degree of corruption. Almost the entire order of the White Robes was affected. Surely more mags from other orders were involved, but Fedorus was very ambitious and did not want to share power with others. As he thought about these various themes, he noticed shadows beginning to approach him. The Denka turned his head and watched those poor beings forced to wander between life and death to accept necromancy or fall victim to those nefarious spells. What do you want? Normally these beings had no regard for what the magicians threw into the well. If the newcomers were not strong enough, they were devoured in seconds. And it was a better fate compared to what the abominations suffered. They had to remain inside the pit suffering insatiable pain and hunger for all eternity. They couldn't talk, but just like the damned Therkomak, Gosburg could read their minds, see their story, and feel their pain. At the beginning of acquiring this form, knowing so much information had driven him to madness, but now he could control it. Even so, in the well the images of unbearable pain, betrayals, lies, deceit and bad decisions crowded him and he could not concentrate. I don't have time for that. There are more urgent matters. The beings quickly swirled around him. They wanted to rest. Nothingness was better than this. One of the oldest abominations. At one time she was a young magician who tried to betray her teacher to take her position, but failed. As punishment she was turned into an abomination. Desperate, she offered the Denka a deal. I'll be the last, I can propel you to the exit of the well. Gosburg thought about it. It was not easy to finish them all. It would cost him a lot of power and time, but these poor devils needed to rest now. The Denka closed his eyes as lightning began to come out of his hairy hands. He would try to do it as quickly as possible. Krytus kicked the air. He didn't stop cursing. Stupid Denka. Look at giving the jewel to Fedorus. Aris was hanging. Leave it now, Gosburg is already in a better place. Sabu was trying to take off his clubs, but in the position he was in with his legs on his arms, it was impossible for him to do anything. Why didn't you order Gosburg to go and tell Ferdinand? If I ordered it. I don't understand why he did that crazy thing. Aris' orders were those, but I remind you that I am the superior in this company and I decided that the best thing to do was to give the jewel to Fedorus and try to free you. Everyone was surprised. Before them was the Denka, it is true, with his grey hair a little singed on his head. By the caves of Delholm, you are alive! Exclaimed the dwarf. Gosburg did not speak and began to see the locks of the jail that seemed to hold no secret to the Denka, while the rest began to reproach him for his crazy decisions. It's impossible. Idiot! You have given the jewel to Fedorus. I have my reasons. Gosburg replied calmly. Always you and your motives, you get kicked out of the company. Gosburg was already inside the dungeon examining the magical shackles. I'm going to take a while to get you all out, you have several enchantments. And so he did. It took him a long time to free them all, especially Kush, whose muzzle was a masterpiece of arcane metallurgy. Even so he managed to free him. The magician could already speak. How did you manage to rescue us? Gosburg did not answer any more questions from his colleagues. No one understood anything. But well, it was not a novelty either. Without weapons we are lost. Agnorak concluded. They must have them stored somewhere. Everyone looked at little Denka, who scratched his head. Let the wizard perform a spell, I have already freed you. There are no such spells. Kush replied, visibly angry. Vanus went ahead of everyone and made himself invisible. I will look for them.